Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Sunday, March the 13th. The year's 2022. Let's talk trading. Weekly open and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. So let's take a look here, and we have a few pairs that haven't filled the gap. The pounds filled the gap this week and is now 21 pips below the weekly open. We're right at the weekly low, and we're 42 pips off the weekly high. And we're only about a little over 6 hours into today's trading. And if we look at the month, we are 406 pips below the monthly open. Big red candle there. I think we're probably approaching the range, the ATR. So we once again look at the week. We opened below the pivot point, so we have 1, 2, 3 weekly pivots in a row that have been missed. We'll show the statistics coming up. We're putting in that opening range for the week right here. You can see we're below the opening range for the month and below the opening range for the year. 515 pips off that yearly open. New yearly low. Every time we make a low today, it'll be a new yearly low. Inside bar action, not too much on the daily, weekly, but we still have a lot of inside bar action on the monthly. No pairs are over 100 yet. Once again, only 6 hours and 16 minutes into the trading day so far. So we still have a lot to go range-wise. The buy zone to the upside, there was pips to be grabbed, and to the downside, pips to be grabbed. Rat zone range is still too low, so we'll have to wait and see what happens before the rats can start to feast. Okay, so we have the pivot trading plan. It says near R1 bias is short, and that's right near the weekly pivot. There's the daily pivot. And let's see, near the pivot, the bias is short. We haven't even come near it. So according to the Bambino Flex, S1 opened below the previous day's, or S1 was below the previous day's low, and you can see here we did hit the previous day's low and have exceeded it. So once again, that little trade proved to be profitable. So far, we haven't hit today's pivot. And so we've got 3 missed pivots on the daily this month. And we've got 3 missed pivots on the week, 3 in a row. Now, 3 in a row's only happened 13 times out of, maybe I need to add that. Let's see. I think we're running 250 if I remember. Yeah, 250 bars. So missed pivots versus filled pivots. Add those two together. So 13 times, or let's see, 3 times out of 250. That's what? Just over 1% of the time. So I don't know. Do you think it might be a good plan if we can break above the weekly open to head back toward that pivot? Weekly open is at 30, call it 30.32. So if price comes back up to 30.32, see if we can shoot and take out that weekly pivot. Not to mention we have an unfilled gap right here. So sooner or later, I think these pivots and this gaps will be taken out. The lower wick zone, daily lower wick zone of Friday's candle, we went up through, which was the open here, and then down at out, which was the low. So these simple horizontal line trades once again paid off. For the week, not much range, only 43 pips at the moment. ATR being 211, which we actually hit last week. But I also mentioned, well, let's finish up the week here. Weekly, we pretty much went over a lot of these on Friday. Okay. So we haven't broken the high, but we have broken the previous week's low. So we might want to look to see if we get back in that weekly wick zone to once again head north. But I mentioned the monthly. So let's take a look at that. The ATR is 409 and we're at 428. So we've already hit ATR, which would almost give confidence to start looking for some reversals. And if we look left here on the monthly, we can see we've pushed up from this level, pushed up, pushed up. So, especially if it gets, say, wow, that's another 100 pips. It would have to get down to the 129.00 area, or at least at 129.14 somewhere in this area. It might snap back. We'll have to wait and see. It's very interesting times we're living through, to put it nicely. So who knows what's going to happen? And we look at the price action simple chart with the Walmart lines highlighted. And I hope that trader who was asking about the Walmart, I hope they watched that video, and maybe they watched all the Walmart method videos that we put out. But so far today, there's a couple of trades, but still, this is not the time of day to trade the Walmart method. Lower high, higher low, works pretty much 24 hours a day. Sometimes are more profitable than others, but you can see today has already shown some profits. Right here, we've got a lower high set up off of a 3-ball. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. And last Friday, I showed you a couple of, or an indicator or two that I was working on. The training wheels with the ATR saying which way you should be trading, or it'll tell you if it's okay to reverse. Somebody was inquiring, how do I know when to reverse off of a semaphore? You know, there's lots of rules of thumb. So for example, another way is we've got a red daily. So what that would mean is I would only look to short off of the semaphores that are on the top until the daily says reversal trading okay. So that's just another way of interpreting when to reverse using the ATR. So this week we will continue with the trading better theme. And one of the things you might want to consider, I think I may have talked about this, I don't know, it might even been a decade ago. I like to put certain things on 3x5 cards, and as opposed to, I could put it on the screen using, the TRO My Notes indicator, but sometimes looking at something that I can actually put in my hands, yeah, I can lift up my laptop or lift up my monitor, but it's just not the same. So like, for example, I have a pre-trade checklist here, and it says, first thing I do is I check the news. Is there any news going to come out? Next thing is I check the map. I think I've showed you that chart that I call the map. And then I just run through all the chart periods just to see what sticks out. What do I see when I just look at it? And what's it tell me? And then as I'm looking at the map, I look at the target areas. Where do I want to enter? What areas do I think price is going to come to hit? And then maybe I can go for a reversal, or I can, trade the buy zone and say, okay, if it comes through the buy zone, then chances are it's going to reach this level and look to take profit. And that's another thing I guess I could mention. It's kind of the same with the ATR, but for sure, if you see it break out of the lower wick zone here, and it hasn't hit the ATR, I mean, right now we are at 43 pips, but the ATR is 117 here, ATR 14. So I wouldn't even think about reversing it. It just, to me, it wouldn't be smart. I mean, here we're only 18% away from the open. So just, to me, just wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Price likes the range before it returns. So you have to give it a chance to range. And so one of the things on maybe a separate set of 3x5 cards, maybe different colors, either you write in different colors or have different colored 3x5 cards, is maybe even red cards or write in red. Reasons not to enter a trade, because as traders, we're usually looking for opportunities, but sometimes it works, to do the old George Costanza, do the opposite. Look for reasons not to enter a trade. And maybe now and then you can't find any, so that's when you enter the trade. But it might slow you down a bit, keep you from over trading, because it's real easy to get in that, you take some profit and then you're just so anxious. You just want to get right back in and do it again. But if you look at the chart, usually that's not the smart thing to do. So for example, if you were going long here, and all of a sudden you hit the one ball, and then you start to look for long trades, say maybe right here, or maybe it paid off, but you can see it didn't pay off as much as before. So maybe you just need to wait for a better trade. Just something to consider when you're trading. So, fellow traders, I hope you've had a fun and safe weekend, enjoyable. And I just want you to remember, when you sit down at your trading terminal this week, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.